our series in which we are speaking to the authors of Born to Bloom. And with me, just now sitting with me here is Brigadier Shushil Bhasin. Now, Brigadier sir wears many hats. Currently, he's not wearing anything, but he wears many hats. He's a soldier. He's a brigadier from the army. He's an educator. He's a mentor. He's a professional speaker. And I could keep on adding a few to, my fingers. But let's speak with him. Let's understand his life experiences and the reason why he shared this particular chapter from his life, which is a chapter in Born to Bloom. Welcome, Brigadier sir.
Thank you very much, Deepak. Thank you for inviting me here. And firstly, let me start with a word of gratitude to Payal and the Bloom team for this wonderful initiative and giving me an opportunity to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier sir. And let's dive in. This particular chapter, which you've written on leadership, specifically battlefield to boardroom, tell us the genesis of this. Tell us how this came about and how it is relevant to the audience who is reading this book today.
So, very frankly telling you that when I left the army and I came into the corporate world, because of a reason that goes into another story, that it was the children of Army School Bareilly who instilled that love for the youth in me, that transformation of human beings became more important to what I was doing in the army. So I thought I've already spent 34 years in the army and now I need to look at another angle, and I came out. When I came out for children, but somehow the schools and colleges were not so responsive to the charges we were making in a camp that we had made. So we had to perforce get onto a secondary job that we had decided, and that was leadership and team building training. Because of my 38 years of military leadership experience. So I thought that is in my blood. I've gone through every type of a leadership challenge there, and let me do it. So that was the beginning. Now when I started my leadership trainings, I started looking at certain things which were so easily done by an army officer, and the corporate was just not doing it. Whether it was punctuality, whether it was discipline, those things were not there. And I used to wonder, why don't these people do it? And then I started looking at this. But it took me about 10 years to, or maybe more, to home down to this battlefield to boardroom cliche. And that is when somebody told me you have to gain focus and all that. And I used to do everything and anything you tell me, because in life so much of experience, you know so much, so batao kya karna, I'll do everything. So then we started homing down to this. So that became my cliche, and now most of my leadership, in fact all of it, whatever I talk about leadership, about teamwork, and when it comes to teamwork, it means a lot of other things that are related with leadership and teamwork, and that is time management, resource management, problem solving, decision making, all these things come in that. So those become the subjects within leadership.
So, Brigadier sir, you have got multiple self-authored and co-authored books to your name. When somebody reaches out to you and tells you that, I would like you to add a chapter into my book, what is that thought going through the mind of that person, here you, that, I've already written so many books, I'm doing so many corporate programs, do I really need to add a chapter? Do I really need to contribute to this? Will it make a difference? What was going through your head and what made you finally decide yes?
So first of all, let me tell you that if somebody tells me now, can you add a chapter to my book? I will probably not be interested. But here the story was different. Here, one, I was doing for a purpose that I had seen a friend get into, Payal. I thought she has a purpose and I wanted to be a part of that purpose. I resonated with that. So I did it for her, primarily. Now, when I had to do it, you said rightly, I've written a book on time management. But as I just explained, everything that I've written so far does boil down to the fabric of my experience from the army to the corporate or to the general life. So, considering the audience, considering who would be the readers for my book, with all that in mind, I decided to do this. But see, battlefield to boardroom is a very, very vast subject. So I have picked up that little thing of emergence of leadership, battlefield to boardroom. And in this I talked about, because I am addressing an audience I don't know. Who'll read the book, I don't know. So I'm talking about anyone at any stage of leadership, and anyone who says, I'm not a leader, and I say, you are a leader. Everyone is a leader because it starts from self-leadership. You lead yourself before you lead others. Okay. So, if I talk about a homemaker, she'll say, I'm not a leader, and I'm telling you, she's the biggest leader. She's such a manager.
Yeah.
Okay. It is that one person in the family who is so important to the family, and she does everything that a CEO of a company does. From finance to HR to PR, everything is done by that one person. And we, the men folk, are not really, we don't realize it, and we don't have that sense of gratitude.
Yes.
So here, to all the wives in the world, let me tell you, you're doing a great job. Yeah.
I think Brigadier Bhasin is indirectly sending this message to his wife also. So thank you for doing that. But a slightly controversial take, Brigadier sir. You said, when you were going through the army, through the training, discipline is natural. Being on time is natural. Getting up on time, being ready is natural. Corporates somehow aren't able, and you need somebody to tell them and teach them. Do you think it would make sense for today's students, maybe at school level or college level, to have some time in the army, just like, a lot of countries require you to have 2 years of army training? Your views?
Okay, 2-3 parts to this question. First, let me address this part. People have asked me this question related to your question, but not the same, that you're in the army, you need discipline and all. Why do I need it? Okay. The army's job is different. A corporate company's job is different. Okay. Your target is profit. And for me, profit has it doesn't even exist. Okay. So my aim is mission. Your aim is profit. Your mission is profit. Right? So therefore, why do I need it? And I say, yes, you don't need it. But you need it. In a way that if you understand, I'm not telling you to have army discipline. I'm telling you to decide what is your discipline and go by that. That means if a company has its own protocols, the same thing is called discipline. So if you say that in my company this will happen, this will happen, this will not happen, and everyone follows what you have decided, that is discipline. And then for me, the deeper part of discipline is not the discipline that we think of. Where a policeman is standing on the road, and you quickly clip your seat belt. That is not discipline. That is forced discipline. Self-discipline is when you do things that you ought to do, even without being watched, and even when you don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like going to the gym in the morning, but I still do it. That is discipline. And just another small little example here before I mainly address your question. You set an alarm at night to get up at 6 in the morning. And this manufacturer has given you such a beautiful facility called snooze. Okay. So 6 o'clock the bell rings and you snooze. And then you get up at 6:30. What have you lost? What have you lost?
Time.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
That is one part. But the much bigger part is that you have lost your self-dignity. You have given yourself permission to disobey yourself. What stopped you from putting the alarm at 6:30? So that means I don't even listen to myself. तो मैं दूसरे की क्या बात सुनूंगा भाई? I don't care. So I'm starting from that. Now when it comes to that, whether it is students, whether it is corporates, whether it is anyone at home, you have to pick up a certain amount of things in the army, which are basic fiber, the application becomes different. See, the word is discipline, but you don't have to start marching at home. People feel कि हाँ एक whistle बजेगी. I know some people said my father was from the army and he used to blow a whistle at home. No, that is taking it too far, or maybe it was just a joke or whatever. Yeah. I am saying you have to understand when I say. So by the way, in the army we have something called a military appreciation. It's a process which starts from the beginning to why we are doing it, and then comes to us, and in the end you get a sound operational plan. I realized that the same thing could be applied to the corporate world also. Yes. So I did a little homework on that, and I tried to keep finding equivalents. So in that we start with the terms of reference. Now terms of reference is that for this particular operation, you will not be allowed to use tanks, or you will not be given this, or instead of 4 companies, you will have 3 companies, one we are withdrawing. Yeah. So that means you have to work with these restrictions. Correct. So these are your terms of reference. Does a company have them? When a company says, we will operate only in the rural market. Yes. So less than a boundary, same thing. So that is a term of reference for you. Yes. Okay? Or we will not have these products, or we will only do natural products. So these are the terms of reference. Then you say aim. So aim is same. In the army is very, very strict. To do this. To capture point 4071. That's it. You don't have a long aim and this and that. You want to be very clear. And then you say information. Own information, enemy information. So own information, you write down just to remind yourself that I have got 1 battalion, I have got a troop of tanks, I have got 1 battery of artillery. So you remember कि इसी के साथ मेरे को अपनी गेम खेलनी है, ठीक है? So in the corporate also they have to do. This is what market we have. This is what type of clientele we have. This is what type of funds we have. So then it says in Hindi we say फिर दुश्मन पहले खबर अपनी खबर दुश्मन की. So now same thing in the corporate you will do is market. What is my competitor like? ठीक है? Then we go on to factors. एक factor होता है ground factor. We say terrain. Is it mountainous? It is this, that. In the corporate you say competitor. Okay. In the army we say what do you call? I told you ground. Ground is market, and enemy is competitor. Although that's not a good way to say it, but in a way. Okay. And so on. Then there are some common ones. We have a surprise factor that corporate also has. We have a time management that also they have. So there are some which are common. Now, when I went to the corporate first time, there's a company called Technova, and I did this exercise for them. Sir, this is very simple. Why don't we do it? I said, why don't you do it? I am also asking. So after that, a lot of corporates picked up, and this is the very thing. So you can come to a sound business plan with the same template. So I'm only saying that things are different in different applications. And when it comes to the training that you said that everyone should go to compulsory military training, yes, we should. And because India has a lot of complexity in terms of its size, in terms of its diversity, that we can't have that type of compulsory military training that Israel can have, for example. Yeah. So when India realized that we need something like that, they came out with this NCC. Yes. But I didn't know till I became the chairman of the army school, because when I applied for NCC, and I found that you have to wait for 6 years to get your turn to be NCC. So it's difficult. It's that NCC is serving a very small part of our. But NCC is one thing that was designed to bring in discipline. And I know that today when I'm talking to any clients or any students of mine, 3-4 others say, sir, I have done NCC. They feel very proud about it. And they say, we also realize that our counterparts don't have discipline and we have. So that is the way.
Thank you for sharing that. And my last question to you is, before we close, is You speak a lot about leadership. This chapter of yours is about leadership. Do you feel that leaders are born? And one, are all leaders winners and every winner is a leader? So it's actually three questions. One, are leaders born? Second, are all leaders winners and is every winner a leader?
Okay. So, number one question, are leaders born? My own very strong opinion, no, leaders are made. Okay. A little footnote here. Like what Sam Manekshaw said. He said, give me a person of reasonable intelligence and at least a little bit of ambition, and I will make a leader out of him. Okay? But I would say 20 to 30% attribute your inclination towards leadership is necessary, because if you take a duffer and try to make him, you will not be able to. So you will not be able to make everyone a leader. Just to put that into practical, what happens in the army? You have an exam, written exam, then you go and have an interview. And that is a 5 days grilling interview in which there are psychological tests and all that. What are they doing? They are trying to feel, are you a potential leader or not? So once you take those potential leaders, then you put them through a factory called NDA, where we say, on one side you have the raw material, which is, of course now girls have started coming, but in our time they said, where ordinary boys enter and extraordinary soldiers appear. But in our own India, there's a joke that after this happens, like any other factory, kuch na kuch defective piece bhi nikalte hain. So, but yes, leaders are made. I'm very, very firm on that, because I know how I went through this grilling process of being a leader. And here, although you have not asked that question, but let me specify one thing. Nobody in the corporate can train its leaders or develop its leadership like the army does. No one can. You can't afford it. Now, if you just know, I don't know the figures now, but they are huge. The amount of expenditure of on an NDA cadet by the government of India, when I was doing training in 67, 68, in those days they used to say it is 5,000 rupees a day.
A day.
If it was not 5,000 or 3,000, something like that. Okay? You have a horse riding there, you have a swimming pool there, you see the type of stuff that is there. The rations, you eat the best food of your life in India. So, that is a premier institution of the world. It gives you such a wonderful place where you come from. But still there will be defective leaders anyway. So, another thing is that I'll tell you one thing which you'll be surprised by. 4 years of training and 13 years in the army, I had never heard any lecture on leadership. I had not read anything about leadership. We were not given a book to read or something. We were taught leadership every day on the ground. Practically. And after 13 years, first time I heard a leadership lecture by the commandant, and in that, the only one thing I remember, which is in my LinkedIn post today, streak of ruthlessness. In that leadership, he said, a leader must be very empathetic, he must know his men and all that. And then he said, but despite that, you must retain a streak of ruthlessness. If one or two people have to be sacrificed for the interest of thousands of people, do it. Do it. Okay. So, coming to, there's the other part of the question. Now, all leaders are not winners and all winners are not leaders is a simple answer to your question. And one can explain because there's another McKinsey report which says that 83% of the companies in the world have agreed that there should be leadership development at all levels. And 75% people, the millennials, say that हमारी कंपनी में कोई leadership development हो ही नहीं रही है. Yet, despite all this, that McKinsey report says, which is about 10 years old, that only 5% companies in the world have proper leadership development at all levels. And that is what makes my point very strong when I go to companies, that you need to develop leaders at all levels, not only at the top level.
You know, we are really, really privileged to have a leader like Brigadier Shushil Bhasin as our mentor, with his experience and the knowledge he is sharing and the trainings which he is doing in corporates. I'm sure he's adding to that percentage where that report will, after a few years, say, yes, the 5% has become 7% or maybe even 10%. Now, more and more corporates are literally actually putting people onto the leadership path by getting people like Brigadier Bhasin from the army.
At 5.1%.
5.1%. Thank you, everybody. A huge round of applause for Brigadier Bhasin who's joined us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Continuing our